Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, Blue Marble Riders, and welcome to another beautiful day in paradise, although it has clouded over a little bit. Still some blue sky over there, I see. This video is going to be all about how I set up my cameras for vlogging. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm not going to let you into all my secrets, but given it's such a beautiful fall day today, I thought what a great day for some photography, and I've got a few camera angles going for you, and I'll explain how I use cameras to bring the riding experience to you. So I'll often go out just on my bike with my mirrorless camera and none of these videos, just because I love photography, stills and all sorts. And just as you can see, there are so many people riding around today. Lovely old BMW that was. For some it'll be the last day of the season, and how to capture that and how to remember those memories and how to pass them on to you, and for those of you who perhaps are at different times of year that aren't riding, how to communicate that wonderful feeling of sailing through the air on the back of your favorite steed. Well, I do it in my own way. I am by no means an expert, but I will tell you how I set it up and how I do it. A quick cautionary tale: please don't do what I do just because I do it and think it's safe. I would not say that everything I do is safe, and I take my own risks. You can take a look down there right now and you can see how close that camera is getting to the side and also to the ground. So you risk damaging equipment, you risk damaging yourself, and worse, you risk damaging your bike or someone else. So yeah, you got to take it a little careful when you do this. I hate to use the word common sense, but you know, be very, very prudent, stick to speed limits, be safe, don't do anything marginal or stupid on camera. It can be used against you. Okay, with that said, today, right now, I have 3 cameras running. Sometimes I'll go with 4. 2 used to be my norm, and I found that adding a third just for me gives me more pleasure. It's a lot more work editing, but it gives me more pleasure on looking at it, and I do get a lot of people saying they really enjoy my content for that reason, that I've got these unusual camera angles. So here we go. This camera, it's an old Session 5, and I usually use that one for pointing back at me. I can sort of immerse the listener, the viewer, in what I'm saying. I can use hand gestures, I can nod, and they can see me. They can see me talking. I think that's important. There's a lot of vloggers out there that just do the forward one and they're not talking to you, they're narrating, and to me that's very disengaging. Some people like it and I understand that, but to me it's very disengaging. So I love this view back. It's one I always have to have. This is fairly straightforward. It's pointed almost as high up as you can get this. I find that the better exposure you'll get. If this is low down and you're pointing up towards the sky, you're going to get a bunch of light behind you and you're going to come across very dark. These aren't the best anyway, and it's possible I'm coming across quite dark now. But the higher I get it up, the more helmet and the more horizontal with me. So imagine the line is going from this through me, quite low and barely rising behind me. That is sort of what you want. Some people like it super central and will mount it low down. I do that sometimes. I will mount this one down here, obliterating my dials, but I think you want to see the dials. Then I've got this forward one. Today I'm wearing this upside down. I find the lower you can get this camera, the more immersive it is, the more feeling the person gets riding the bike. They see more of the bike. If it's up high, up here, you're sometimes looking over the bike and you can't see dials, gauges, controls, arms, etc. And so I think from that perspective that's very, very important. And then of course, hanging off the side precariously is my 360 cam, and I use the 360 pole and I have it attached to the bike using ram mounts and foot pegs, and I've braced it several different ways in the past, and I find the present system I use is the best. If you look carefully, you'll notice that the Z comes with what look like bobbins really, but they're tie downs. So I took one of these tie downs off. And I replaced it on this side with another ram ball, and it screws in, same thread as the mirror, so quite a universal thread, and put that on, and then I've got a ram clip here that comes down to another ball that screws into the bottom, another ram ball that has a thread on it that screws into the bottom of the Insta-stick. Most selfie sticks will have something like this. It's a standard thread for cameras, and you can get it, and the ram ball fits in here. Ordinarily, I used to just have this ram mount straight on the selfie stick and the selfie stick out, but as I said before, the wind resistance and suspension movements, gravity, etc. would eventually pull the camera further and further down and further backwards, and the view would change and you actually risked damaging the camera. So what I've got now is not only is it attached to this point underneath here, the old bobbin on the other side has been replaced by, as I said before, this ram ball. Then I've got a ram mount, a short one, which goes into this ball on the end of the selfie stick. And then I've just basically got, using, and this is why I don't take the foot pegs off my bikes, using the passenger peg, I have clamped a ram extension to it, and this ram extension seems to be perfectly fitted for foot pads, because when you screw them in, they just go rock solid tight onto the aluminum there. And then I've got a ball that joins the two, and another one that comes up here, and it fits and bites straight into this Insta-stick here. So now I've got two ways of bracing this, and it's much more secure than it was before. As I said, use your common sense with it, though. You could hurt yourself badly if you ran into someone with it, because it really is on quite strong. Coming around here, you'll see the same sort of rig that I have. I have another clamp here. I can clamp onto here. Do that up just very loosely right now. And foot pegs are great. So I can clamp onto here, and you'll see another ball mount under here, same as the Z900 has, and out come the ram bits straight to the selfie stick, and up comes the other one, and it clamps on, and then out goes the 360, and it's just the same way of doing it. I always have it, because I'm in North America, I always have it coming off the right, nevertheless. You can't stop it moving around. The selfie stick will bend, even with the weight of it when it's being used from the hand. So it's very wobbly, and you do get lots of motion with it. There's nothing you can do about that. The Hero 11 that I have up here and the 360 have really good stabilization, image stabilization, so a lot of that is taken out. So where to mount the cameras is just as important as what cameras to have and how many you're using. You'll notice on the Moto Guzzi, I often will mount the 360 camera right out in front. That is very dangerous, but I take that risk and I secure it as best I can. I've got some great points on that. I haven't had the confidence to do it on the Z900 RS or the V-Strom or the Husaberg, because they just don't offer me the same mounting points that the Griso does. That's a great shot. You see the whole bike from the front, and a lot of people do comment on that one. On the Griso, for my forward view, I use a very sturdy clamp here. You can get these on Amazon, 20-30 bucks. These jaws are incredibly strong. I can't move it at all. I can move the steering with it, and this ball is incredibly strong. You know, I'm not even going to give you the manufacturer, because there's so many of these out there. They're all made by the same people, but you just want to make sure everything is metal. The only plastic on here is here, and they look like this. Yeah, too long ago I bought that, and that's, as you can see, I've got a little ball in here, and this is what I screw, standard camera thread. Screw that onto the selfie stick, and I project that out in front. Very dangerous. Be very careful. This is the sole mounting point for it. You have to be very judicious and careful. I wouldn't recommend you do it. On the V-Strom, I'll mount the camera sticking up in the air, and you can get a plan view of the V-Strom, which is quite a good one too. You could do that on this, straight up from one of these ball joints. You'll notice I use a lot of ram balls. On the Griso, I have them in here. Here it is. It just screws into the handlebar mounts right here, and you can have a ram arm coming up here with a camera on that, and it can be facing forwards, or my preference is backwards. This is another ram ball. As I said earlier, it is screwed into where I took the mirrors out of many years ago. They make the same thread size for that, and you can screw in a ram ball and then fit a ram clamp mount on here. The old-fashioned method was, and I still have a lot of these, is if you don't mind damaging or marking up your handlebars, then you can fix these on, and there's a little metal clip that you screw on. The screws come through the top here, and you've got another ram ball there. And I have them all over the side of the bike, both sides. I will never use the 360 on the left hand side of my bike, and if I was in England I would never use the 360 on the right hand side of my bike for oncoming traffic. One, I don't think it's interesting, you're above a lot more tarmac. Two, it's downright dangerous. You could definitely take a car out. Now, what about overtaking? I hear you cry. You can overtake a little more easily, especially if you see there's only one car ahead, there's no one coming the other way. But if you've got that sticking off to the left, you're going to be right over on the side of the road. You have to take some very unusual lines with this rig sticking off, and you definitely have to take corners a little slower, because if you heel too much, you'll find that you're scraping your camera off. If you don't brace this camera, the 360, like I do on this bike or on the Griso, it will move. Ball joints, as strong as they feel, the vibrations of bikes, the wind, the resistance, the suspension, the bouncing will move them. So you really need to double brace everything that you hang off the bike. This one is out quite far as I can make it go. You can get longer ones, I would not recommend it. Short sometimes works as well. Sometimes I'll stop in a ride, move cameras around. I don't do that so much anymore because I find it a bit discombobulating for the viewers. They get used to the 3 or 4 views you have, and then all of a sudden there's a different one. Ultimately, I'd like 4 cameras, and I like the one that I mount on the Griso down by my left foot, so you can see me changing gear. I haven't got that set up on this one yet, but I will do it. The Griso offers a lot more position, so that's another thing, is the type of bike you have will offer you different positions. The Griso offers me the front, it offers me a lot more on the left hand side. And here you can see another Ram ball mount, or an aftermarket mount. It may not be Ram, but it screws straight into a stock OEM Moto Guzzi part, keeping the shroud on here, and it's perfect, it does the job. And I've also got this low profile Ram mount here, ball mount, that I can stick more Ram connectors on and cameras hanging off. And the reason I like this is you get the exhaust, you get the headers, you get the engine, and you get me changing gear, and you get a little bit of sound too, although there's a lot of windage that comes off here, unfortunately. I call this my Alan Milliard mount. He's the one who inspired me to do this. I don't know the guy at all, I just watched his videos, and I find that he's wonderfully syncopated when he does it. You see his hand go in, you see his foot change gear. It's all very synchronous. And then you can also mount them on the forks as well. A lot of people will do that. So mounting on indicators, this has got a nice chunky blocky indicator, mounting on forks and mounting down here. The V-Strom, pretty much the same. You can see Ram ball mount here, the old-fashioned type that I've got there. There's another one on the other side right here. If I move the handlebars around, you can see it. So I've got one either side. I've also got some mounts down here off the end of the chain guard, and I think I took the mount off, but I used to have, there it is. There's a ball mount right here as well. So yeah, ball mounts, you can put them all over the bike and get some fascinating views. I find the ones close to the bike, you've got to use them sparingly, because, you know, someone's foot changing gear all the time isn't particularly thrilling. The Berg, I mount off the back sometimes. This isn't a mount, this is for a drone, a beacon. But you can see another one of these wonderful clamps here. You can clamp those on. I have various mounts around it I can use, and I am going to be using the 360 on it, running off that and getting a nice perspective view as well in the future. The Z is fairly bog standard, offers me handlebar, offers me off the side. I can run it off the back as well. You want to make sure you mount these so that they don't obscure your vision. Some people will very cleverly mount them over the Speedo for obvious reasons. Other people will mount them so that they are looking sideways across things. You've got to set these up the way you want the viewer to see the riding experience. You've got to set these up in a way that highlights speed, even though for most of the time on camera you should really be doing the speed limit. The lower you mount this down, the faster it will appear you're going. Super view is what I'm using at the front here on this camera here, the Hero 11, that's off my helmet. It gives you a view of my hands, it gives you a view forward. Be careful with the angle that you set it at. Too much sky, too much tank, and I've done that. plenty of times, it's easy to do. So you basically have to look on your phone, where is this thing pointed when I'm mounted on the bike? You're starting to get an idea of just how complicated and time consuming and fidgety this whole process is. You gotta love it. And then there's the camera on the helmet. This is the one where I have the mic. And then I've got the usual GoPro adapter for the sound. And then I've got my GoPro upside down off the bottom, because as I said, the lower you can get this, the better it is. You'll see me often, I'll have it up here, but I find that's doesn't emphasize speed as much, and you don't get as much of the bike in the picture. So hanging this upside down, super view, 4K 60, 4K 30, I find 30 is actually it gives a little more motion blur, which is something that you want when you're filming. This is the best this does is 4K 30, and this does probably about, well, they say it's 5K, but when you split it between two cameras, it's about 2.7, something like that. Here's a helmet I don't want to put a camera on, so I would use a chesty with that and wire the mic up and inside through your clothing. Again, you can imagine how much hassle this is. Even someone like me who's done this lots, it will take me half an hour to get the bike ready for all of this. Don't buy the stuff unless you're really going to be committed to it, because it's I can't tell you how many people I know with GoPros lying around that never get used. Yeah, so I'm not sure that I want to go into too much more detail on what I do. What I will tell you is some helmets are better for mic noise than others. I've had a lot of people saying, wow, how did you get that noise? Well, folks, check out, am I sitting behind a fairing? If I am, like on the V-Strom, well, the bike noise is tremendous because you're not getting any wind noise. This helmet is particularly bad for wind noise. It's particularly windy today, as you can see, and I know that you'll be getting a lot of wind noise. Remote mics, a lot of people mount them, wire them around the exhaust at the back. More clamps that I have down here. I have one more here, which I use sometimes for a camera facing backwards, or a microphone. And I've mentioned I've tried to get the gorgeous sound off of the Griso. It's very hard to do. Even tucked under here, there's a lot of windage. So still working on that one. I have not had much luck with mounting mics close to exhaust. I think I'll go close to exhausts without the wind overwhelming a lot of the sound you get from the exhaust. So if you have any tips for me on that one, I'd love it. Dead cats I've used, shields, all sorts of things. The wind just somehow gets in there. I use cheap Lavalier mics. A lot of people go high end with the Rode stuff. The lower end stuff, tucked and engineered in the way that I do it, provides at least some sound quality you like. With that all said, I just love riding in the fall. I think it's absolutely magical to see the colors. Now, unfortunately, the white cloud has come over and bleached everything out. But this morning I got the idea of doing this because it was such a gorgeous day. There were leaves blowing everywhere and it was all golden looking. And still, I hope you enjoyed that very brief information on vloggage. I would be a hypocrite if I said I use a tether on everything, but I do know people that do use tethers on everything, and it is a very sage and wise thing to do if you've got all that equipment, because as soon as one of these cameras hits the ground at this sort of speed, I'm afraid to say that you've probably gone through $600 to $800 Canadian of camera gear, because it's probably not going to survive it. Look at this now, a bit of sun on this and it would just erupt in splendiferousness. How majestic is that? All the leaves, the big leaf maples changing here. Gorgeous. But that 360's never been so stable. It's a real improvement on what I used to do. And what I mean by stability is, yes, it's bouncing and wobbling around as I mentioned before, but what isn't happening is it's not dropping lower and lower to the road or sweeping further and further behind me. The camera view is fairly straightforward. Okay, highways, I always tuck these things in. It's just too fast to expect it will reasonably stay. It's an interesting view when you pull that in, the dynamic movement of the camera. The great thing about a camera on a helmet is you can act like suspension, if you like, smoothing out, blending, turning, but keeping your head sort of in roughly the same position, compensating for sharp movements of the bike, etc. It just gives you a different way of looking at things. It also is what's called the POV shot. And of course, it's not all shots. I don't mean to sound as if it is. You're going to have something in the content. People are not going to just watch photography. There will be the odd one that really appreciates it, and they're the guys I really appreciate, because that's one of the reasons I do it. I just love photography so much. I love the feeling of speed that you can bring to the viewer, the dynamic aspect of motorcycling that you can capture through cameras.
Good luck if you're someone who's going to go into this. Remember, be safe. Cameras are secondary to what you're actually doing. You're riding a motorcycle on the road. Be very, very, very careful if you're considering doing this. Take it slowly and don't expect great things straight away. It takes a long time to become satisfied with what you do. And that, I think, is the most important thing. I hope you found that useful. Let me know any tricks you have if you're a vlogger in the comments below, and anything you do like that I do and anything you would like to see. I'd be very interested to know. Okay, with that, this is the BlueMarbleRider out.
Once again, thanks for watching, everyone. If this is the first time you've watched, please consider subscribing. I do motorcycle reviews, motorcycle-related product reviews, off-road and on-road vlogs, as well as tours. Even though I'm not the most diligent poster, don't forget to follow me on social media. That's Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. And to like, and especially, I'm begging you here, folks, subscribe. And don't forget to click the bell so that you're notified whenever I release a video. This is the BlueMarbleRider, out.